Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today I want to talk about China because apparently the Chinese government pretty much has every American's personal information, and that is thanks to Equifax. Now, here's what's going on. Before I dive into the news of today, let's actually talk about the Equifax data breach and why we can't really trust what we've been told in the past. Now, if you recall, Equifax had a data breach in 2017 where they basically said that 142 million Americans were compromised. And we are talking deeply personal information, as Equifax basically stores a ton of personal information that they turn around and sell to businesses regarding us, the consumer, to make sure that we are credit worthy, if you will, when we are trying to take out loans, mortgages, et cetera, et cetera. So the information that they have on us, including personally identifiable information, transaction histories, everything is very, very intimate and very, very, well, damning, quite frankly, if it gets out. And that's exactly what happened. And so they came out and said that 142 million of us got hit. They have, if you did not realize, have been raising that number basically ever since. And we're up, I think, roughly another 50 to 100 million right now. And they'll continue to do that over the years now that the dust has settled on this data breach. But new allegations today basically bring them back into the spotlight. And I think we really do need to shine a light on this. Now, here's what's going on. This is according to the Associated Press today, Monday, February 10th. 4 members of the Chinese military have been charged with breaking into the network of Equifax and basically stealing information on pretty much all of us. This is according to the Justice Department, and they are blaming the Beijing government for one of the largest hacks in history to target consumer data, Equifax being one of the most damning data breaches in history, especially if you're a U.S. citizen, pay taxes, and do things like get loans and mortgages and all of that, myself included. Now, these 4 are members of the People's Liberation Army, which basically is an arm of the Chinese military, and they are focused on stealing basically company trade secrets, including database designs and personal information. And again, this is according to the U.S. Justice Department. So what they hit in this case was a product called Apache Struts. This is forward-facing or public-facing infrastructure that Equifax said basically wasn't kept up to date because basically they dropped the ball on that. And by virtue of that, by virtue of having that open vulnerability, attackers were able to bypass the standard login and authentication methodology and basically get in and steal a whole bunch of data. Now, according to Attorney General William Barr, who said today, and I quote, "The scale of the theft was staggering. This theft not only caused significant financial damage to Equifax, but invaded the privacy of many millions of Americans and imposed substantial costs and burdens on them as they have had to take measures to protect against identity theft." Now, this is true, and when this initially came out, I said that they had basically lowered the numbers. I have literally been in rooms with large corporations when they are going through data breaches where they try to come up with a number that isn't so low that nobody's going to believe it. Like, nobody's going to believe 10 records from Equifax got hit versus the actual number that really is hit that could potentially put them out of business because it is so damaging. They come up with a number, in this case 142 million, and they raise it over time, as we have seen with Equifax doing this. Yahoo went from 500 million declared to over 3 billion. Dropbox did 7 million, and then I think it was about 5 years later, they said it wasn't 7 million, it was 70 million. So this is a very common tactic, and U.S. compliance law is pretty flexible in allowing these organizations to make their best guess as to what's going on. Now, as a response to this, the Associated Press reached out to the Chinese embassy here in the United States, and the Chinese embassy did not respond. Now, this is also not the first time that we've had issues with the Chinese government, or rather the U.S. government accusing the Chinese military of breaking into U.S. infrastructure, typically in corporations. So, for example, in 2014, there was an indictment from the Obama administration's Justice Department that accused 5 members of the PLA of hacking into major American corporations to basically steal trade secrets. We also suspect, or rather U.S. authorities suspect, China in a massive 2015 breach of the Office of Personnel Management and intrusions into the Marriott hotel chain and Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. If you recall, that was one of the largest data breaches in history as well. And so by virtue of this, assuming the U.S. government is correct in saying that this is essentially state-sponsored hacking for a country, in this case China, which is running the largest data collection and authoritarian surveillance system in the history of the planet, literally, it has been absolutely just amazing to watch, although terrifying. Don't get me wrong here. They are now collecting this information. Now, the question then becomes, assuming that this is all true and they've got all of this information that they've been collecting on us and building, let's say, automated dossiers, it's not like they've got, members of that, the Chinese military or their government going through every individual record. But the question then becomes, what else are they collecting from other countries? Are they breaking into Germany or the UK or South Africa, Australia, Japan, even their allies like, Vietnam, Russia, et cetera, India, for example, who was one of their major rivals. So I'm very curious to see where this goes. But FYI, if you got affected in the Equifax breach, and if you are a U.S. citizen that pays its taxes and have gotten anything from a credit card to a car loan to rent for an apartment to a mortgage, you are absolutely 100% affected by this. Don't let Equifax tell you otherwise, and now your data, including my own, is sitting in the hands of the Chinese government. And I thought that was interesting news, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And so that is your news of the day. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.